January 12, 2010. In Statesboro, Georgia, it was a quiet Sunday afternoon. Average winter weather, not too warm, not too cold. People wandered to the Walmart for groceries, gathered for after-church dinners with friends, and by the end of the day returned to their homes preparing for the upcoming work week. But for a group of Statesboro residents, their lives were about to change forever. A little over 1,100 miles south, the people of Haiti moved along with their daily lives. Street vendors waved the flies away as the vegetables sat in the hot sun. Motorcycles raced around the overcrowded tap-taps, the brightly decorated minibuses, and pickup trucks. Men walked down the street or gathered at the local Texaco station to talk, while the women sat in the shade, fanning the children. Late in the afternoon at 4:53, life in Haiti changed, perhaps forever. A 7.0 earthquake hit, centered just 16 miles west of Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince. An estimated 300,000 were killed. Another 300,000 were injured, many losing limbs. 1.5 million people lost their homes. The tragedy could not have hit a more vulnerable place. The poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, Haiti had a population of slightly less than 10 million in an area the size of Maryland. 1/3 of its population is children under the age of 15. And women in Haiti have a greater possibility of dying when giving birth than in almost any other part of the world. Back in Statesboro, a medical mission team anxiously watched the ongoing situation in Haiti. The team had worked in the Caribbean and Latin America for 15 years, the last 5 in Haiti, supported by the Pittman Park United Methodist Church, along with other local churches, the medical community, and individuals. This is the team's story following that earthquake. Built around the concept of serving as many people in need of medical services in 1 week as possible, the Statesboro Medical Mission Team usually traveled to Haiti in the fall. The January earthquake meant October couldn't wait. So in February 2010, only weeks after the earthquake, a small unit of the medical team composed of a doctor, nurse practitioner, nurses, and pharmaceutical personnel landed in Haiti to provide needed emergency care. In October, the entire 11-member mission team returned to Haiti. 7 had been with the team for a number of years. The other 4 had considerable mission experience. The team's talents varied: a doctor, a nurse practitioner, nurses, a logistics expert, a construction guru, and GSU faculty members and others for support. Each team carried 2 large pieces of luggage which held mostly over-the-counter medicines to use during the week, plus clothing and personal items.
We were in pairs. I was with Richard, and the customs guy laughed at us when he said he wanted to inspect our bags. Scared Richard to death. I finally had enough. He spoke English, so I told him I was a school teacher, and right now I was a hot and sweaty school teacher, so get a move on it. He quit searching the top bag before he got to the medicines.
The team members who hadn't made the February trip were shocked by the total devastation, the destruction everywhere, covered with dust. 10 cities at every corner with blue tarps and tents stuck together.
Although I've been a lot of places, nothing really prepared me for this. It took us an hour to go 13 miles, most of it on broken roads, major potholes. Little kids peed in the road. The air pollution was sickening, stifling, and the tent cities are everywhere.
The medical mission team from Statesboro works with the Village of Hope Lazarus Project. It's an interdenominational organization whose primary ministries are the Village of Hope School, the Health Center, and the Little Children of Jesus. The team's first day was at the Village of Hope School in a rural community about 45 minutes from the compound.
We had the best day with working at the school. We treated several hundred students, mostly for imagined complaints, stomach aches, fevers, so on. But the lack of dental care is atrocious. I think what made me the angriest was the total lack of prenatal care, and there were loads of pregnant women. I would say half of the kids who had a parent with them had a pregnant mom.
The Pittman Park medical team had built a reputation over the years of being the most organized, on-target medical team to visit the area. The second and third days were spent at the school, but treating the surrounding community and the families of the students.
Today was Community Day at the clinic. We saw at least 150 patients or family groups today. There was a young Haitian doctor. He came after lunch, and he helped us for a few hours. But we're out of any vitamins, including prenatal, children's cold and cough medicine, and vaginal medicines. We saw a lot of STDs, particularly gonorrhea, and pregnant women can't have the antibiotics. I don't know what we'll do, except just not give anything. There were a number of babies and toddlers with vaginal infections, and cleanliness is the whole key to prevention, something that just isn't here. It's depressing, but we can only help a few people in one tiny piece of the world at a time.
The team's week isn't measured in days, but by each day's location. In 2010, the team was sent to one tent city for one day.
Today was the day at the camp. This was hard today. There was a little boy, he was maybe 3. He was brought in by a brother who said he was 15, but he was probably 8 or 9. When we said we couldn't treat the little guy without a parent, there were a number of adults who suddenly became his aunt, his uncle, or his cousin. The little guy cried for the hour he was with us. He finally got so tired, he just whimpered. And then he just kept his face in his brother's shoulder until they walked out. This was a kid with no mother to tuck him into bed at night, or a father to hold his hand crossing the street. The village is raising this kid.
In 2010, Haiti was preparing for a presidential and national election in November. Tensions were high, people were upset that food wasn't reaching them, roads weren't being repaired, and basically that nothing was happening. The medical mission team's work is often affected by circumstances and events around it. In 2010, the team found itself in the middle of political demonstrations.
The major election here is a month away, and there was a big presidential rally near the tent city where we're to be tomorrow. One of the top congressional candidates came by in his pickup. He begs for food and clothes for the children.
We have many children, and we have many poor. Many people, they haven't anything to eat in my country.
By the way, if you're hearing about the people dying from a poisoned creek, that's not near us.
The poisoned creek wasn't an imaginary fear whispered in the night. As the team prepared to leave Haiti, it became real, something feared by every medical professional around an overcrowded, polluted tent city with raw sewerage, a cholera epidemic. By April 2014, the cholera had killed more than 8,500 people and infected hundreds of thousands. All of this due to a fragile water system throughout the country and the damage to infrastructure from the earthquake. Like many workers, the medical mission team left with a sense of work undone and a promise to return. The team returned in October 2011, but with different responsibilities. A different year, a different way of doing business. The Village of Hope Medical Center was almost finished. The medical mission team worked where assigned by the Haitian Ministry of Health. Although the commute was shorter, the medical team's work was more difficult than the previous year.
We're at a tent camp this week with 850 families. That's 850 families, all on a soccer field of a high school which has never been rebuilt. There appears to be more construction going on than last year, but still the same old Haiti. Bad roads, garbage, dust everywhere. We're working under a circus-type tent, just much smaller, and every nightmare about Haiti, Africa, the worst developing countries, is here on this old soccer field. We treated 132 patients in 6 hours today. I've never cried when I saw some of the cases, but I did. Just looking at a baby I know will die in the next 24 hours. Malnutrition, dehydrated, totally unresponsive. Loose skin, blank look, 5 months old, maybe 7 or 8 pounds. I don't know if that was the grandmother, but she was taking care of the baby because the mother had run off. We paid for her to take a tap-tap to go to the nearest hospital. We quit counting the malnutrition cases the rest of the day, but worst of all were the burns. The people cook on open charcoal fires, so there's always a few cases, but nothing like this. One little boy was walking around naked because it hurt too much to wear clothes, and his feet were rotting. He was the first of at least 5 children we treated for burned, rotting skin. Another was a baby, a year old, with burns all down her legs. Her mother said a pot of green beans fell on her. Another little girl, 7 months old, had burns down her torso and legs. This afternoon, a little girl, maybe 2, had stuck her hand in a pot of burning oil. Most of her hand and wrist were turning black. A lot of the children have herniated navels, where it was probably a home birth without proper medical care. There were a lot of pregnant women with no prenatal care, and most of all, it's just generally bad hygiene. You cannot imagine in your wildest dreams the absolute filth. We take our own tables and chairs, bring them home at night, and bleach them down.
For 3 days, the mission team worked at the tent city, treating more patients each day, with the lines getting longer and longer in the hot, broiling sun.
Well, 3 of the 6 burn victims came back for further treatment as promised today. Yay! There was a 17-year-old cute little girl who ought to be a cheerleader with dates on Saturday night, but she was pregnant. We didn't see any malaria or HIV, but we had one 2-month-old baby who had congenital gonorrhea with one eye almost gone.
Even though the team saw over 700 patients in just 5 days, there are special ones who the team members remember.
An elderly lady was brought to my attention when she went through triage. She was trembling so badly she could barely stand up. It turned out she was severely diabetic, had been out of diabetic drugs for some time, and she also had high blood pressure. We were out of diabetic medicine, but we'll have more tomorrow. She started crying, and Tony found out she was hungry and had no food. We gave her some peanut butter crackers, which we rarely do, and we comforted her the best we could. I hope the lady comes back tomorrow morning like we asked her to. I was fine until she cried. The silent, big, rolling tears. She reminded me of my grandmother. I don't know why, except my grandmother was a severe diabetic. My grandmother had great care. This lady is on her own. But tomorrow's another day. We're up at 5:30, leave at 7, patients at 7:39, so on and so on.
By the last day of a typical week, the medical mission team is drawing on the last of its energy. For that reason, when possible, they often travel to the easiest locations on the last day, such as the Village of Hope School. The VOH clinic was under construction at that time.
Today we started out early to the school. 13 miles, 45 minutes later, we drove up and were entertained with the opening ceremony, thanking us from the pre-K, the kindergartners, and the first graders. We were supposed to see mostly staff, a few students, no more than 45, but we saw 102 in all. The new health clinic being built is coming along nicely, so I imagine our time at the school may be limited from now on. But that's okay. Nothing changes in Haiti, and the same tent camps with the same poor and the same orphans will be here next year. Wednesday, I held a dying 1-day-old baby in my arms while she tried to bring her 103-degree fever down. She was dressed in the sweetest little orange dress with a little Peter Pan ruffled collar. Between now and when we return, more babies will die, some will live, and more will be born for us to see next October. This afternoon we're packing up, deciding what to take home and what to keep here for another trip.
That 2011 medical mission in Haiti was the hardest for many of the team's veterans. In late October 2012, the team returned with some veterans missing and newcomers filling their positions. However, the team's spirit remained, even knowing what they were facing. But there were also new challenges as the team traveled to Haiti. Hurricane Sandy was spinning up the east coast of the U.S. The team was rerouted, spending 22 hours traveling to Port-au-Prince, but still was ready to work the next day. Hurricane Sandy had already hit Haiti, right behind Hurricane Isaac. Flooding was rampant. That created new challenges for the team. The Village of Hope Medical Center was now open, so there was little need for the team to treat students or staff there. In addition, the Ministry of Health had organized medical districts, with a center facility and sub-districts attached to it. The VOH Medical Center was now the center for the district with 22 sub-districts. Although the medical mission team still carried the over-the-counter medicines with it from the U.S., prescription drugs were now available at the VOH Center. The team was assigned 2 villages for the week. Neither village had seen a medical team since before the earthquake, 3 years previous.
We worked late into the night and were all set up to go early. Left at 7 a.m. Planned to go out to the school, get the rest of the drugs, then backtrack to our place for the week. I understand it's worse than last year's. We didn't make it. The last hurricane washed out the bridge over the river right past the school. The government hasn't done anything. Roads are worse than ever. We got halfway to the school and we were stopped by traffic backed up. Buses and trucks were turning around, and this is one of the main roads to the DR. Turns out there was a demonstration going on, tires being burned, the usual stuff for a demonstration. I was told to turn off my camera. Why, I don't know. So we turned around and went to another place. By this time, we were pushing 10 a.m., so saw only about 90 patients. But some of the drugs we needed were up at the clinic, which was cut off. Late this afternoon, the police still hadn't cleared the demonstration. We found out one vehicle tried to go through it, and the demonstrators took his car. So we don't know what to expect tomorrow. One of the VOH people will try to drive to the clinic tomorrow morning, and if he can't get there, we'll just go someplace else. Maybe the same place as last year, the tent city. It hasn't had any medical care since we were there. So just go with the flow and don't mess with God. At least that's our statement, and we're sticking with it.
Although the Village of Hope compound has a number of amenities, it's still dependent on the Haitian electric power system. Frequent, unexpected interruptions in electricity means no lights, no warm water, and no internet. At best, internet access is sporadic, even with power.
There's little or no internet. We're using someone's iPad, which is about to die. We got to the village we were supposed to go today. We're there all week. We drove through floodwaters. I lost count of the number we treated. There was impetigo, malaria, pregnancy, vaginal infections of many types, and there was lots of mud.
Later that night, the internet became available.
We're working against time. By the end of the week, we expect to see the diarrhea and cramping. That's the start of the cholera that's about to happen. Almost all of the women and many girls have vaginal infections. It's due to unsanitary conditions, and we have very little Imodium, already running out of the strong antibiotics.
The floodwaters were rising, and the team didn't know if the old truck and van from the VOH could get through. They did, and they spent the next day in the same village.
We got to the village this morning. 200-plus patients in an incredibly bad setting. It's like they're in a separate world with no contact with this world. Occasionally we'll hear about someone visiting the clinic, but most people never go there. But it's all about the village. There was a 100-year-old woman, she said, who had her 3-year-old grandson with her. She swore she was 100, and there was nothing wrong with her. All 200 or 300 people were watching, and they all nodded or said yes. Sort of like hearing amen in a revival time back home. Turned out she did have high blood pressure, which most adults here have, but the kid had hepatitis. He had to get to the clinic. Somehow, after identifying 2 or 3 younger relatives, but no mother, a guy came forward. Yesterday, he had been treated for a motorcycle burn and was back to have it looked at, so he offered to take them to the clinic when the flood waters go down. By the way, we finally saw the mother. She was not real anxious to be seen, but funny thing, she had a shirt on that said Miracle. Don't think I ever saw her talk to Grandma.
The team was completely unaware that floodwaters had risen rapidly during the day. On the way back to the compound, the going was slow as the truck and van attempted to drive through the flood, with water spilling into the van through the door seals. The 2 vehicles made it to higher ground, but it was obvious the village would probably not be reached the next day.
All of us are worried. We saw the most beautiful little baby today, only 17 days old. Her mother died in childbirth, and her aunt is taking care of her. She was so precious. The aunt had her wrapped in blue blankets. She was healthy, but the aunt and grandparents were worried. Formula is expensive here, just like in the U.S., and they had been buying it to feed her. We promised we'd bring some for her tomorrow. We don't have much, but we'll bring what we have. But now we can't. We can't get to her, and there's nothing we can do.
There is a happy ending to this story. 3 weeks later, a medical team reached the village with formula for the baby. With floodwaters preventing work in the village, the team changed its plans.
You know, when one door closes, God opens another one. I guess you have to know the door's opening, though. When we found out going to the village wasn't possible, Pierre, our senior translator, said he had a place for us. Now, Pierre is like the head of his community. He had 30 people camp out for months in his courtyard after the earthquake. People come to him every day, and he said his community needed medical help. He didn't live far from the compound, right there in Croix de Bouquet. So we loaded up and drove over to Pierre's, set up the clinic in his living room, and treated about 200 people or so. It was like any other clinic we've done, but what struck me was how many malnutrition cases we had. Then I realized we didn't see much malnutrition in the rural village. Turned out there was a small tent city near Pierre's house.
The team didn't have permission from the Ministry of Health to be there, But like many things in Haiti, they just happen. No one from the Ministry of Health could be found to direct the team, so it took the initiative. Pierre's house was scheduled for the end of the mission for 2012, almost 3 years after the earthquake. What had changed? Not the roads, but schools were opening. Wells were being dug for the villages, the clinic had opened, and 10 cities were closing. Perhaps things were improving. The team for 2013 was larger and included several couples.
It's great we have John back, plus several other men new to the trip. But I'm not sure how I like my husband with me. I mean, we used to say, Nick does Paris, Susan does developing countries. He's never, ever been with me on a trip like this before. I told him not to treat me like the little woman.
Once again, the team landed in Port-au-Prince with little knowledge of what to expect. There were no floods or bad weather in general to be expected, but beyond that, little was known.
I guess the first surprise was the airport. It was almost like any airport in the islands, actually air-conditioned, and immigration looked like Miami. Wow, what a change. As usual, we were met by our friend who controls parts of the police force in Haiti. What a pleasant surprise that Tony was with him. Tony was our guard from 2011, and now he was back with us for the week. We had to worry about customs, though, because all bags were searched, and we had a lot of OTCs with us. Turns out some lowlifes had brought outdated medicines into the country, so now everyone was checked for up-to-date pharmaceuticals. Not a problem, just an aggravation.
Later that night, the team learned that it would once again be working in subregions of the VOH Medical Center, and once again 2 different places. For the first couple of days, the location was close to the clinic. For the next 2 days, it was up in the mountains. The mountains actually separate Haiti and the Dominican Republic, 2 very different countries.
This first place is in a church, pretty close to the clinic. I'm not exactly sure why we're here. I mean, these people could all but walk to the clinic. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not our place to question why we're here. We were sent for a reason. These people just look a little better off than who we usually see, but I guess they need medical care just like everyone else.
The team is supported in Haiti with a group of paid interpreters and oftentimes a couple of people from the clinic and the Ministry of Health. Usually the doctor at the clinic or another Haitian doctor will join the team for part of the time.
We seem to have more help this year than previous years, and it seems like we could direct what needed doing faster because of people to help. Once we're set up the first time, usually within 30 minutes or so, we're in business, and after that, it takes us less time each day.
Every patient is received in triage where a card and a bracelet with a number are given. As often as possible, children and mothers have consecutive numbers. The patient then sees a doctor, may be sent to the lab, then to the pharmacy. When finished in the pharmacy, the patient's bracelet is removed. The system allows for a check and balance so that no one receives medicines not prescribed for him or her. The cards for all patients are saved and given to the Ministry of Health for filing at the clinic.
I like the way we do business. For all the conditions where we find ourselves, we have a system that almost always works. I love to watch the children come through. The mothers dress them in their Sunday go-to-meeting clothes, and the little ones have the cutest little outfits. And the smiles. Like babies anywhere, the Haitian babies will smile, they'll play, they are just children. It's hotter this year than most, and I know why some of those moms get irritated with their children while they wait in the heat to go through triage and then to see a doctor. No different from back home, though. How many times did I get irritated with my own when we waited for over an hour to see the doctor?
After 2 days at the first site, the team packed up, headed for the mountains for days 3 and 4. Once again, a new site, unknown condition, only it's up in the mountains.
We're in the mountains today. It seems like we traveled for miles and miles, passing small villages as we climbed higher and higher on rough gravel roads. The Haitians say, though, that we're only about 15 miles from the clinic as the crow flies. And as usual, the patients are waiting. That's something we see a lot of. Patients hearing we're coming, and they're gathering in the early hours to be first in line. By the second day in a place, the crowd is bigger because word travels fast, the clinic's here. Not sure they were really prepared for us, though. We're at a church that's also a school, so the preacher had to find some place for the students to go, including the chicken coop. I had to laugh. Some of the older students just slipped away, not so quietly. That's real familiar. But I did watch a great football game. No real pitch, just an area behind the church with the goal, the gate to the road. What a game. Great footwork, fantastic passing, and what speed. By the end, I noticed that the shirts weren't tucked in the uniforms anymore. So what? They all had fun. I wish I could send loads of balls for them. I have yet to see a new soccer ball anywhere in this country. Our arrival became a village event. Some were sitting under the trees, others in line. 2 women set up a couple of food stands, one cooking some sort of pastry. I don't know how much money they made, but they seemed to be doing good business. I'll remember this place more than the other. There's something about the people. For some reason, maybe it's just me, I see more fathers with their children than ever before. Sometimes it's a mom and dad, but sometimes just the dad. A couple of years ago, while we were in the tent city, someone told us that mothers were abandoning their children and running off due to depression. That's why we saw the grandmothers with the babies. Now I can't say, but it's sort of sweet in a funny way. And I'll remember a couple of these patients just like I always do. They do seem healthier than the ones we saw in the tent city, but there's still plenty of high blood pressure and vaginal infections. There was one girl with her baby. Then there was the girl's mother. And the mother stood at the window outside calling out to her daughter. I noticed her, so did the preacher. The preacher got mad and he chased her off. Then I found out from some of the locals she was a local midwife of sorts and was telling anyone who would listen that we were evil. Taking away from business, I suppose. There was a girl, maybe 10 or 11, I would guess. She had to have some minor surgery on her hand, and I'm sure it hurt, even with local anesthesia. I'll never forget the way she just flat out glared at all of us while she wanted to be dismissed. And the babies. One with a smile that could light up a room. Another who took a while, but she smiled for me. And the little one with that strawberry hat. How precious, and they're all God's children.
The time had come to go, but before it left, the medical mission team was asked to gather around the preacher. He told the team how much the local people had been blessed because of its time spent. Then he told how many of the people had walked for 2 or 3 hours in the dark, leaving their homes at 1 or 2 in the morning to reach the medical mission site, and many of them were barefoot.
I've been many places and seen things I can't explain, but the preacher was giving us a message from God. These people walked in the dark to stand in line for hours to see us. We will probably never see them again, and they won't see us. But just for a very small time in God's universe, we were together. I've been truly blessed.
Nancy Waters, who has been part of the medical mission team since its inception, said the following.
From Nancy. At the end of the week, all of the team was tired after a very busy and hot 5 days of clinic. Then the young minister asked if he could say a few words to the team. He thanked us over and over for our help to his people and how many had begun walking before daylight, some for 2 or 3 hours, in order to get to the clinic and get a number to see the doctor. I thought how often we are irritable when we drive to an appointment already made and have to wait in an air-conditioned office for 30 minutes before being seen. Once again, I realized how blessed we are every day of our lives and how blessed I've been to be a part of this team and see God at work for the least of these.
The team is scheduled to be in Haiti again in October 2014 to treat the people in need. According to reports, roads are being repaired, garbage is being collected, and more children are attending school. But the need remains and will for years to come. Listen to these 3 to 5-year-olds at the Village of Hope as they start school each morning. They are the answer to Haiti's future. They are the reason that we do what we do.
If you're happy and you know it, then your life is truly show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. you're happy and you know it, step your feet. If you're happy and you know it.